I thought we were past the generic superhero origin stories with the cheesy one-liners and shitty build-ups and sequences. But Morbius is here to remind us all that they still exist. This movie is trying so hard to join the comic superhero party only to mess it up with bad jokes and inconsistent storytelling. Welcome back everyone to a new review, and here we have Morbius. God, I feel sorry for Jared Leto for being in this monstrosity. The character of Morbius is quite new to me, and I didn't have any background of it at all. And I would say the trailers did a solid job of selling and teasing the good things about this movie, only to then disappoint completely and not live to the hype, as we're going to talk about in detail here. And before we jump into it, a reminder of course, first of all, that this review is going to contain major spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you know what to expect.
Just accept who you are. The bad guy.
Seriously, this movie is like someone went into an exam not knowing what the hell is going on, copied random answers from everyone around him and submitted his paper while feeling proud, thinking that he achieved something. Now this movie was supposed to bring a new story or at least an interesting take on the superhero genre, but it clearly took inspiration from some bad comic movies before, and the best choices it seemed to mostly take from were 2003 Daredevil and Ghost Rider, and maybe a little bit of The Amazing Spider-Man too. Yeah, cause these are the perfect stories to derive from. So, the story we have here is about a scientist, Michael Morbius, who was born with a rare blood disease, and he spends his early life with his best friend Milo and Dr. Nicholas, who is like their father figure, until Morbius is found to be very smart and thus sent to a different school. I don't know if I missed something, but I felt that the first scene was completely irrelevant and had nothing to do with the rest of the story. I kept waiting for something to refer back to it to see the connection, but nope. It was just a useless first couple of minutes, and if it had been taken off, it wouldn't have changed one bit of it. And I also have to mention the second ridiculous scene with the little disabled kid being bullied because of his disability. I wonder where they got that original idea from.
Round two. What's up, freak?
Look at him, man. Look at his eyes.
Yo, kick his ass, man.
Go ahead, fight me. I dare you.
Yeah, Murdoch.
I dare you.
The story then continues when Morbius finds a way through using the DNA of bats to cure himself, but it also gives him superhuman characteristics, in addition to a strong desire to drink human blood. On the other hand, his friend Milo, who has been desperate for a cure and relying on Morbius to achieve his breakthrough, ends up eventually ingesting that supposed cure, despite Morbius warning him against it. And Milo then obtains the same characteristics as Morbius and generically becomes the villain because he likes a taste of blood all of a sudden and turns completely evil. This movie was very fast-paced, and most of the scenes in it were brief and didn't give a chance for anything to be established properly or delve into, whether showing the origins of the main character or his relationships with either his love interest or even with his best friend, to at least give an emotional drive and keep the viewer interested. Sometimes it was even showing certain characters or events for a while as if they're connected to the story or the main characters, but then it moved on to a whole different sequence and set up with no mention of those events or characters again at all. And most of the scenes were very cliche and predictable from the very beginning, and there was no sense of thrill or suspense either, and it felt like you knew the whole story from the start. And what makes it even worse is the lack of common sense in the writing of every character. Their lines, reactions, and acting was magnificently terrible. The only actor I thought was trying to do his best with what he was given was Matt Smith, who played Milo. I haven't seen him in many movies before, though I do remember him from Terminator Genesis, and he seemed to be the only one taking his role seriously, and he actually carried the dramatic scenes in the film to some extent. They only touched a little bit around how he feels with his condition and in his relationship with Michael and Dr. Nicholas, but him turning into a complete villain, embracing the dark side and enjoyment of killing people, including the Doctor, was brought about so fast and with no build up to it at all. Then the two agents, Agent Stroud, played by Tyrese Gibson, who is generally a good actor, even though he hasn't been in many good movies recently, and Agent Rodriguez, played by Al Madrigal. In this film, they were both very abstract and seemed like they were simply there to fill time into the movie with their presence. They were emotionless, reactionless, and really bad with their jokes. Like when they discover the deaths on the ship and how the victims look brutally killed and see the evidence of something supernatural, they don't even have a strong reaction of fear or frustration or even confusion. They simply treat the matter as if it's just a normal kind of incident, like a theft or any small crime. And when they arrest Morbius and question him and he's exhibiting all those changes on his face that are clearly showing him to be inhuman, their reaction in the end was like, meh, we'll come back to you later.
Holy water? Really?
Yeah.
Everything in this movie seemed out of place, out of context, and would have you scratching your head the more you try to connect things together. The more I kept watching this movie, the more I lost interest. It fails in every attempt in trying to be comedic, serious, dramatic, or even in its action sequences. On the other hand though, to be fair, the only thing that I would give this movie props for a little bit are the visual effects and CGI. The action sequences, even though they were edited very randomly, but at least a few of them were slightly good. Or maybe I was just trying to enjoy them and keep my time going for this movie. The acting of some of the characters was also really bad, and that definitely made for a worse experience and would easily take you off from enjoying the movie or even take it seriously. As I said in the beginning, I am starting to feel bad for Jared Leto because he usually gives good performances and has some great movies, but he didn't seem to be given much to work with in this film. His role was very generic and doesn't hook you in or make you root for his character, and this movie definitely adds to his list of failed comic movie portrayals, along with his appearance as the Joker. I was also not impressed at all by his version there, but that's a topic for another review. The sequences of events all the way until the build up to the climax in the end did not seem to have any effort put into them. The last face-off sequences between Morbius and Milo were basically two scenes mashed together of them flying around, pretending to fight, with the whole scene looking very blurry and full of random effects where you can't really see any details. And after they fall down, making a massive hole in the ground until they're in the sewers, Morbius calls his entourage of bats for one final move before he kills Milo. And then when he's flying back out of the hole, he's just floating around, and the next clip shows his girlfriend waking up with red eyes because Milo bit her. And that's it. There was no follow-up or even showing if Morbius was flying back to check on her again or if he was flying away. That was the worst ending I have ever seen in a comic movie. And oh my days, the last post-credit scenes were another monstrosity of its own. They were so terrible. If you are a huge fan of MCU Spider-Man, those scenes will give you
emotional damage.
The visual effects and everything about them seemed rushed and made it look like a parody. Seriously, Michael Keaton's The Vulture is too good of a villain to be brought into this shitty universe. And those post-credit scenes are definitely a disrespect to the MCU, Spider-Man, and Michael Keaton's fans. To be honest, the story with this character had major potential for being a very good experience, but so many aspects in it, from the events and sequences to the action to the drama and even the comedy, were reduced, badly edited, and neglected, making for a very mediocre movie eventually. In the end, this was a huge missed opportunity. I really had high hopes for it even after seeing the bad reviews. I wanted to like it and actually gave it a full chance, but was hugely disappointed. So for my final score, I would give this one 3 out of 10. I'm not well informed about the whole events surrounding the making of this movie, from the delays and reshoots and what Sony was planning to do with this movie and ended up giving us eventually, but I don't think this film is going to get another chance for a follow-up or a sequel or even a feature in the MCU. This one will only add to the not so good superhero movies like Daredevil and Ghost Rider, and to be honest, those were actually better and I enjoyed them more. So let me guys know, what did y'all think about this one and what rating would you give it for yourself? And do you agree or disagree with all the aspects that I mentioned in this movie, or were there some parts that you actually enjoyed more? And if there are any more information that you would like to include into this discussion, please drop them all in the comments below, as I would very much love to read your opinions and what you thought about this one. And until I see y'all in the next video, thank you very much for watching, have a splendid day, and peace out.